A circus of lost souls, assassinations, an overdose, illnesses. Maria Shriver's life has been filled with grief and loss.
About 10 or 15 minutes ago, a tragic thing, from all indications at this point, has happened in the city of Dallas.
Maria Shriver was a young girl when a personal and national tragedy occurred. On November 22, 1963, Shriver's uncle, John F. Kennedy, was assassinated. A widely popular U.S. president, Kennedy was in the midst of a re-election campaign, which included a stop in Texas. Tragically, President Kennedy was shot in the head and the neck while he rode in a motorcade in Dallas, Texas. The shots occurred shortly after noon, and President Kennedy was pronounced dead at 1 o'clock that afternoon at Parkland Memorial Hospital. While the nation was in mourning over the loss of a president, the Kennedy family was mourning one of their own. At the time of her uncle's assassination, Shriver was just 8 years old. On the 59th anniversary of Kennedy's assassination, Shriver tweeted, "On this day in 1963, my uncle was killed by an assassin's bullet. I was in 3rd grade at the time. I was taken out of class and sent home. This day is forever seared into my heart and mind." Not even 5 years after the assassination of John F. Kennedy, another member of the Kennedy family was assassinated, and it also occurred in the middle of a presidential campaign. Tragically, another uncle on Maria Shriver's mother's side of the family, Robert F. Kennedy, or Bobby, was killed. Bobby had previously served as Attorney General under his older brother John F. Kennedy's administration, and also wished to move up the political ladder. In June 1968, Bobby campaigned in California and won the state's Democratic primary races. Sadly, he was shot during a celebration at a Los Angeles hotel. He was just 42 years old. Shriver herself was only 12 years old at the time of Bobby's assassination. Not only was it understandably difficult for the Kennedys as a whole to suffer 2 assassinations in the same family, but it must have been even harder for a young person like Shriver to grasp. In 2022, Shriver reflected on her loss on Twitter, writing, "We can honor Uncle Bobby on this day by using our voices to imagine a better country for us all." Uncle Bobby asked at the end of this speech he gave the night MLK was killed, "What do you want to dedicate your life to?" He was killed 8 weeks later. 3 decades after the tragic deaths of her uncles, John F. Kennedy and Robert F. Kennedy, Maria Shriver's family suffered another sudden loss.
A plane believed to have been flown by John F. Kennedy Jr. is now being reported as overdue and officially missing.
In 1999, her cousin, John F. Kennedy Jr., died in a plane crash. The accident also took the lives of his wife, Carolyn Bessette Kennedy, and Carolyn's sister, Lauren Bessette. Piloted by John Jr., the plane went down in the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Massachusetts. The trio was headed to a wedding for John Jr.'s cousin, Rory Kennedy. Rory was Bobby's youngest child, but she wasn't born until after his assassination. Sadly, years later, John F. Kennedy Jr.'s death sparked a conspiracy among some people who believe his death was staged, despite the fact that John Jr., Caroline, and Lauren all died on impact, and their remains were located within a week of the crash. Other outlandish theories purport that John Jr. will suddenly reappear and run with Donald Trump as a vice presidential candidate in 2024. In 2021, Shriver responded to the chatter by tweeting a clip of Brian Williams, calling the conspiracy theorists a circus of lost souls on CNBC, with the added comment, "Well said." In 2003, Maria Shriver's father, Sergeant Shriver, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, this progressive and degenerative condition is the leading form of dementia, with symptoms of cognitive decline appearing most often after the age of 60. Memory loss is one of the most common characteristics of Alzheimer's disease, though it can also cause personality changes. Before Sargent's diagnosis, he'd had a successful career that included being the former president of the Special Olympics, which was founded by Eunice Kennedy Shriver, and the first director of the Peace Corps. Sargent's disease eventually progressed to the point in which Maria routinely needed to explain to her father who she was. While the diagnosis was undoubtedly difficult for Maria and her family, she used her journalistic background to find out more about Alzheimer's disease. From her research, she found that women are surprisingly disproportionately affected by Alzheimer's compared to men. Maria went on to form the Women's Alzheimer's Movement. She also wrote a children's book about the disease titled What's Happening to Grandpa. In 2016, she told Brain and Life, "I'm trying to galvanize women all over the world to help me change the marketing of this disease. It's not just an older person's disease. And it doesn't affect only the individual diagnosed. It deeply impacts the entire family." In 2009, while Sergeant Shriver was living with Alzheimer's disease, Maria's mother, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, died. Although the exact cause of death wasn't announced, her family said that Eunice had suffered multiple strokes in the preceding years. She was 88 years old at the time of her death. In a statement to Politico, the Shriver family said, "She was the light of our lives, a mother, wife, grandmother, sister, and aunt who taught us by example and with passion what it means to live a faith-driven life of love and service to others." In a Mother's Day essay Maria wrote in 2013 for Today, she reflected on her late mom's life and the influence she'd had on her. "My mom, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, was my best friend, my champion. She pushed me, prodded me, challenged me. I miss her very much. She wanted me to believe that anything was possible. That belief was at the core of who she was, and it was at the center of how she lived." While Maria Shriver was mourning her mother's death, she lost another family member, her mother's younger brother, not even a week later. Edward Ted Kennedy had been fighting brain cancer at the time of Eunice Kennedy Shriver's death. Ted, who was the youngest of the Kennedy siblings, was diagnosed in May 2008 and died on August 25, 2009. At the time, he was serving his 7th full term in the U.S. Senate, a position he was elected in 1962 to represent the state of Massachusetts. On August 30th, 2009, Maria Shriver appeared with David Gregory on Meet the Press to discuss her late uncle's legacy, saying, "He was the most compassionate, empathetic man, and I think he was that way because he himself was wounded and he himself knew pain. He himself knew struggle. He knew abandonment. He knew all of the things that pain a human being. And so when he saw other human beings in pain, he was always the first person to reach out." In January 2011, after living with Alzheimer's disease for about a decade, Sergeant Shriver died at the age of 95. All 5 of his children, including Maria, were by his side, as well as other extended family members. In their statement to CNN, the Shriver family said of Sargent, "He lived to make the world a more joyful, faithful, and compassionate place. He worked on stages both large and small, but in the end, he will be best known for his love of others. No one ever came into his presence without feeling his passion and his enthusiasm for them." Maria has continued to push for Alzheimer's disease advocacy, as well as research for early detection and future treatments. Underlying this important work, she told Brain and Life, "Unlike when dealing with cancer, even at its most aggressive stages, there's no hope in Alzheimer's. There are no stories of remission or miraculous recoveries. It's the ultimate foe, and you have to be a formidable warrior."
And that's what's so amazing about this disease, is that it robs your brain.
After being married for 25 years, Maria Shriver filed for divorce from her husband, Arnold Schwarzenegger. The filing followed Schwarzenegger's public admission of an affair he had in 1996. To make the situation even more heartbreaking for Maria, the affair was not only with the family's long-term housekeeper, but Schwarzenegger fathered her child. In a May 2011 statement to the Los Angeles Times, Schwarzenegger said, "After leaving the governor's office, I told my wife about this event, which occurred over a decade ago. I understand and deserve the feelings of anger and disappointment among my friends and family. There are no excuses, and I take full responsibility for the hurt I have caused. Shriver and Schwarzenegger finalized their divorce more than a decade later. While the former couple have remained friendly and even continue to celebrate special events together with their now adult children, Shriver has understandably been publicly quiet over the events that ended her marriage. A source told Us Weekly following the release of Schwarzenegger's Netflix documentary, Arnold, Maria would like to keep what happened in the past behind her and not relive some of the challenges she faced in her marriage. On August 1st, 2019, the Kennedy family suffered another tragic loss. Saoirse Kennedy Hill died of an accidental drug overdose at the age of 22. She was the only child of Maria Shriver's cousin, Courtney Kennedy Hill, Robert F. Kennedy's daughter. According to Today, Saoirse was found unresponsive while on vacation at the Kennedy family compound in Hyannisport, Massachusetts. Saoirse had been open about her previous struggles with depression and a past suicide attempt. About a month after Saoirse's death, Shriver penned a powerful essay about her experiences with grief for her newsletter, The Sunday Paper. Shriver gave the world a glimpse into some truly relatable emotions, writing, "We're all running around doing things that bring us no joy or meaning. We stay in jobs, relationships, or situations well past when we should, incorrectly believing that life doesn't have more in store for us. Death and rebirth are everywhere. They are all the more reason to be less hurried and to pay more attention to what is. After all we have is this moment." If you or anyone you know needs help with addiction issues, help is available. Visit the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration website or contact SAMHSA's National Helpline at 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-4357.